chose not to say it, so he said it louder.
Welcome back to Canceled. And I'm here again with another person that's been canceled. You might recognize his beautiful face. His name is Remigio Pereira from the Tenors. He's made headlines across the nation, and we're going to touch base on your story today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother.
Nice to have you.
Yeah.
Remy.
Hey, brother.
Hey. How's everything going?
Good, man. It's been a while.
Check. Yeah, I'm just checking to see how these sound here. Several years, actually. So
Yeah, you guys go way back, right? Mark and Remy go way back.
We do. St. Catharines a long time ago when I first came from Ottawa.
We did a bunch of
fundraisers.
Yeah, we did a bunch of fundraising, and you've done a lot of that over the years of performing and raising awareness for certain causes and charities and stuff. So, do you still do much of that these days, or what? I'm sure.
Oh yeah. That's pretty much all that I do right now. Is just use my voice, for the betterment of humanity. We have where I'm living out in Nova Scotia, we're like the one of the poorest counties in all of Canada. And we have people like literally living in the forests in tents. And so, there's a huge housing crisis. And so every year I do a concert at Christmas time to just help some of the local families out. And 100% of the proceeds go to that. So, we've raised about $30,000 in the last 4 years.
Amazing.
Crazy. So tell me a little bit about the area. Like whereabouts is it?
It's in Annapolis County. So it's kind of like the, where all the wineries are. It's, there's places out there that are like little Switzerland. It's really beautiful. I mean, the people are super nice. The scenery is gorgeous, especially in the spring, with everything blossoming. But it's very much like here. You guys here, and is this Vineland? Where are we?
Kind of.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
So it's one of the hamlets of Lincoln. There's four hamlets.
Because driving through here, it's like you're going through a little, like in Italy.
Yeah, I call it like the Paris of Canada. Right?
Yeah,
We've got all the wine areas around here. Vineland Estates Winery. There's Tawas Winery there.
Yeah. So it's quite similar to that, except it's got some mountains mountains. Yeah, they're not like mountains like you have out in out west.
Right.
Yeah. So I've just been doing a lot of that, composing music and writing a worship album, and so still performing. Just not on the grand scale as it was once before.
Sure.
Cancel culture.
That's
Let's talk
right.
about that a little bit, because I've been canceled before too. I mean, I'm on like.
Josh, move your mic a little bit forward, a little towards you. There you go.
I've been canceled with, going against the government, basically. I don't believe that they have our best interests, and through the Freedom Convoy or my opinion on, drag queen story time. And we felt the wrath. But you were one of the, this was before the cancel culture. It was kind of like the beginning of it.
I think it might have been probably the first,
right?
The first social experiment.
Well, would you mind telling a little bit about, you were in the Tenors, and you guys were known for doing, it was a quartet, right?
Yeah, it was a vocal quartet, and performing all around the world for the queens and kings and politicians, and doing lots of charity work around the world. And being on tour, you don't have much time for anything else. And I wasn't kind of like the party guy to go out and wherever we were. I would actually sit in the hotel room and start studying and just kind of researching some of the people that I was around, like I was around Bill Clinton and George Bush and all of these people. And I'm like, well, who are these people, And then, the 9/11 story never really sit well with me. And then I watched this show called
Loose Change?
Yeah, Loose Change.
I remember that.
I was
giving out copies on VHS. I was actually like dubbing them on the 2 VCRs and getting that information out.
Yeah.
It was before we.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I remember getting that copies of stuff out.
And I think this was like around 2011, because I started producing a rapper, Young Stitch, and he, in the rap world, I'm an opera singer, how am I going to produce a rap album? So I started studying Jay-Z, and I started seeing all these kinds of symbolism, all of these, hand symbols. I'm like, what is all this stuff, And so then I started going into the rabbit hole, and Loose Change was the first one to go through, and then I'm like, this is crazy. Then it was Clinton Cash. Have you seen that one?
I think I have, yeah.
That's like the 250 body count.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, this is nuts, and and started producing songs like Day of Judgment. I did with Stitch, and in those lyrics was actually a reflection of what I was studying. You know what I mean? And they were obviously, he was like 21 years old at the time, and so they dabbled in the truth movement somewhat, and so but I started just devouring everything that I possibly could, and then I'm the guy on the tour bus saying, "Man, did you see? Man, there's bubbles in space. How is that even possible?" and I was at the time, I turned atheist because I started thinking everything is fake.
It's
so
fake,
there's
yeah.
even Jesus fake and all that. And that's what they want you to do,
Yeah.
but you realize that at the bottom of the rabbit hole is Jesus saying, "Hey, you know what I mean? Here I am."
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you're like, what?
You get there. I got there. I finally got there, right?
Yeah.
But that's the end of the.
It is.
The whole.
You're in a world where all they're trying to do is take you away from God.
Yeah.
Whether it's through drugs, through sex, through fake science, through fake wars. Everything is geared to you're irrelevant. You should change your body. Like that's where we are right now. Like
Mutilate
you're
yourself.
You're not good enough the way God made you, and God isn't real. God is a construct of man. Like
We're all living in an expansion.
exactly.
And
And they even
expansion
changed. Well, this is the whole thing. Once I realized that everything was like, when NASA was a lie, I'm like, this is crazy, So I was the guy on the tour bus, like, trying to wake everybody up, and I'm like, and nobody was listening. Nobody wanted.
And how did that go with your bandmates?
Not well.
So obviously before, like prior to you sort of doing that, what you did at the All-Star game, was there animosity in there? Were they sort of like, Remy, come out with us, or Remy, what's your deal? Like, was there anything
they were
like that?
like, come on, Remy, we're getting messages from people saying, have you seen Remy's Facebook page? You gotta, tone it down, because like we were literally getting funded by people that are involved in all this stuff.
Of course.
I mean, I didn't know at the time. You know what I mean? We're just told to show up, go, pedal to the metal, eyes on the ground. We don't even know until you show up to the gig and they tell you what it's all about. And, if I would have known what I was there for and who it was that we were working for, I would have never, ever, and it's when I started waking up that, all of a sudden our paths there was an impasse. I could no longer continue. I became a vegan. I could no longer wear the Armani suits made in sweatshops, and I'm singing songs about sweatshops and writing songs about sweat. And then I do the research and I realize, wait a second, this friggin' shirt was made in a sweatshop.
Like a walking contradiction you felt.
Yeah, I'm a hypocrite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I couldn't do it anymore. And so that's when, there was a lot of pushback within the band, and it all kind of culminated in a point when we were doing the show with Paul McCartney for the old Vic Theatre in the UK, and it was literally where Pink Floyd, the guy with the suit with the fire.
Yep.
That album cover, that's where the show was.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was there, and Kevin Spacey was putting it on.
Oh boy.
And so I'm like, man, K-Pax, this is great. I loved K-Pax, kind of reminded me of my dad, and all of a sudden, I meet him and I'm like, hello, Mr., shaking his hand, and he's like frothing at the mouth and looking behind me. I'm like, what the hell? I just look back and there's this young busboy, like maybe 14 years old,
Come on.
dishes out. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? I couldn't believe it. And my manager looks at me and I'm like, did you see that? And he's like, what? I'm like, he was just like, he was frothing at the mouth at this. Oh, shut up. It's Kevin Spacey. Just,
What they do in Hollywood.
Yeah. It's like, and I was like stunned. I'm like, what the hell? All of a sudden, man, my mind's going crazy, and then I'm like, okay, who's around me? Like, what's going on? And we were doing a lot of performances for like really wealthy people. Like we performed for the IMF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the IMF even was. I thought, it's banking people,
Right.
So, and there we are performing for them. And then afterwards, go back to the hotel and I start researching what is all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? And I started connecting the dots. And the more dots I connected, the more truth started, showing itself. And God started opening up, my eyes to the truth. And where I was coming from, like, I was literally arguing with a bandmate saying, Jesus is not real, this is all fake history, like, come on, man, there's no evidence, no. And you look at the Pope, look at the Vatican, look, it's like all pedophiles. It's like, come on, man, the Vicar of Christ on earth, this guy, like, helping pedophiles get away with stuff, but then, you start going further down, and you realize, well, everything has been infiltrated.
Satan's here. This is his playground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you realize that Satan has infiltrated,
everything,
and evil hides in good places where you don't think that there'll be, like, either, for child services, that's where you'll find all the pedos, PDFs, where you find, all the child trafficking and everything. I mean, these are the people that we're supposed to trust to protect these children. You know what I mean? So it's no different in the Vatican. You know what I mean? I grew up Catholic. And so, like, I'm like, I remember when I was 10 years old in 1984 in Ottawa, my mom was like, we're going to go, I went with my mom to go see the Pope, John Paul, and it's crazy. My mom gave me my little baptismal, thing to go and get it, blessed by the Pope. And I'm like walking 10-year-old through this massive crowd, and all of a sudden this cop stops me. Hey, what are you doing? And I got afraid and I ran. So I think that was God saying,
don't go near this guy's a lizard.
Go near this guy.
It's a serpent up there. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I was an altar boy at one point, like when I was a kid.
Were?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Well, I got tons of photos.
I got to see these.
Yeah, I was baptized. I got first communion. The whole works, right? And there's no Josh. Nothing happened to me or anything. It's nothing.
Oh, yeah,
so,
right. This
no. Actually, the priest that I worked with was very great, and I mean, I only did it up until I was about 8, I think, 8 or 9. And I was too old at that point to like get this guy out of here, right?
Geezer.
See, that's the problem, because it's not all of them, right? And so it's not all of them that do this.
Of course.
And so but that's how it is. I mean, it's like, even in the truth community, you have like 90% truth and 10% that's not. And it's that 10% that's not that basically, gives the benefit of the doubt. Oh, it's all, these are all lies against these people.
Right.
So, but yeah, like I always grew up with Jesus as, from really young, talking to my mom about Jesus. And, I would have conversations with Jesus. And then as you get older, my parents worked all day and we were raised by the television. So,
Bob Barker. He's on at 11. Exactly. The price is right.
And before that, it was, what is it, Pasquale?
The chef.
Oh, yeah.
And then Walk with Jan. Like, that's what I want to do, man.
Walk with Jan. I love that's a good memory. I haven't thought of that guy in a long time.
Yeah.
Can we put a picture of him up on the screen?
No problem.
Remember you used to have the things, he had a slogan on every apron he had on?
Oh, man. That's where I got all my voices when I used to, like,
this guy.
Walk with Jan, Walk's new pussycat, right?
I'm gonna
This
get
is
up
the
on
thing that that's what you grew up with, and then it's all the science stories shows, and so like
Bill Nye, science guy,
Bill Nye,
dinosaur shows,
and then literally them trying to say, oh no, the Earth is round, and then you got the boat, and then they show like I remember watching that real time, and thinking, oh, and so you grew up thinking that, and then when you find out, and you start actually asking questions, because most people don't.
We just trust. Funny thing, we just trust politicians. We trust everything handed to us. We don't want to do any research, and that's just where I'm at now. Is like I don't trust anything they taught me.
No.
So I have to try to prove it myself.
Yeah.
Right. The flat Earth thing. I mean, I've had several discussions about it, but I'm from.
We always debate about it.
So Mark's. I think he's changed a little bit. He's like,
I'm impartial, right? Like I'm just like I don't know. It's hard to believe that everything we've been taught is not fact. Like especially when you look up in the sky, everything else looks round. So why? You know what I mean? Like.
But you haven't been on the other side of it to see if it's 360. It could just be a flat disc.
Maybe.
It could
even
be
if those are orbs,
a circle on a ceiling.
But I mean, there's birds in the sky too. We're not living on a bird, are we?
No, but what I'm saying is when you look out into the sky, the bird's not circular. It's a bird, right?
But get this. So you go down to. So I've done my own little experiment. So I go down to Charles Daly Park. It's 34 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I do the math, Pythagorean, 8 inches squared per mile.
Yes, right.
And the sky dome I can see, which is only 282 feet high, but there should be 565 feet hidden under the curvature. So why can I still see that obstacle if it's not curved? It has to eventually curve. And once it goes, it starts being squared.
That's right.
So
in all directions.
In all directions.
So that means that all buildings should be tilted outwards when you get to that point.
And you can look at the shoreline from Toronto. You can see the CN Tower, and I go all the way. It's 60 kilometers all the way to Hamilton.
Yeah.
And everything is upright. It's all square.
Yeah.
And so this leads to my question of why have we been told it's circular? What's the point?
So the
of that?
expansion theory, the globe theory, gets rid of the creation theory. So we're living in a gigantic explosion created before nothing by nothing. So you have so it gets rid of the belief of God. And this NASA actually has the serpent tongue on their logo.
But what's the difference if it's flat or
if you look at
circular?
this creation,
Let me ask you something. Would you propagate a lie if you were getting $27 million a day to do it?
No, of course. I totally understand that point of it from NASA, right? Receiving all the funding. But what I'm saying is...
I'm not saying that you would, because
No, of
you're an
course.
honest man.
Yeah.
But these people...
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm saying prior to that, though, what would be the point of saying it's flat versus circular? Like, what makes it
contained?
Well, even with NASA, why wouldn't they just say it's still flat, but you can still go to outer space? What's the difference? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the whole idea is to make you think that there's no other land to discover, and you can't go to certain places because it's, like there's the Antarctic Treaty,
Yeah.
which countries that are at war, they're like, oh, you know what? We'll agree on this. It's okay. Nobody's going to go over here.
Right.
We're good with that. But everything else, listen, put up your dukes. It's ridiculous. The whole idea, I think, is to hide God, hide the fact that we are God's creation, and that we have. This is a spiritual realm, and if you read the Bible, you realize that even when you say the Our Father, it says in earth. That's how it is in the Geneva, right? Not on earth. In earth. Earth is a realm. It's literally, when you go into Genesis, it says, God created the firmament. And you find out what a firmament is. It's firmamento, firma, and it's made out of molten glass, okay? And it's not an expanse, and if you go into the Bible, there's at least 200 instances that show you that it's a circle, right? Not a sphere. And there's a difference between a sphere and a circle. And it's on foundations, okay? That's the other thing. On foundations. And it's immovable. So if this is God's word and God is telling you, and it says in the Bible, trust no man, man is telling us that it's movable, that we're spinning, that we don't feel the spin, right? Telling us that we're literally going, that the sun is 93 million miles away. Yeah, okay, 93 million miles away. And so if the sun is 93 million miles away, 6 months afterwards, we're 93 million miles plus another 93 million miles on the other side of but yet we see the exact same stars.
Polaris stays there no matter what.
It doesn't change. Yet we're spinning, right? Going around and going out into an oblivion, but we don't feel anything. We see the exact same stars. There's no parallax. There's nothing. Think about it. If you have a flashlight and you're dancing and that's what you would see. All over the place.
So what about time lapses when you throw it over the sky and you can actually see things moving?
Polaris stays the same.
Yeah.
What's happening?
The sky is turning.
So you think we are stationary, but the sky is what's moving?
It's a firmament, and it says that the moon and the sun are greater lights that are in the firmament, and the stars are there for signs. And so it's literally, in. And have you ever seen that guy Crow 777? Like. You actually see the waters above. You see water floating.
P90 cameras you can get, and people are zooming in.
Those
and the stars aren't the same.
The Nikon cameras?
Yeah, so you can zoom up, and it's like they're underwater.
Well, that's what I did. I got the
and funny thing, NASA bought the rights. You can't buy them anymore.
I know.
Isn't it crazy? Because they're like,
they changed
the debunker.
something, and they changed something on it because I used to be able to focus on the sun, and I could see orbs going into this. I got a video.
So that's another thing. Talking about this, these guys have taken a bunch of like welding glasses, and they put it in like the sun's not what you think it is. It's like this transfer of soul. That's like, and he's
that's exactly what I saw. You have to watch this video that I made. Like you literally see something falling out of it, and it's
transfer of souls, yeah.
And you see orbs going into it and coming out, and little orbs kind of all around.
And it's funny, you think you can zoom in, like you're going to zoom in on 290 million miles with this camera, right? So
yeah,
I honestly believe everything they taught was fake, and I was at one point an atheist as well, like, the Bible's just something they did to control society, and the story of Christ is really, for years it didn't find it, like didn't resonate with me because I was saturated in science.
Yeah, same here.
We all were. So that's how, and if you want good grades, you got to.
That's right. You got to memorize what you put out, but nobody questions anything. Trust the science. The science. Oh, yeah. It's like even with what happened the last 5 years, You know, like I would tell people, I said, listen, when you buy a house, do you research the house? Yeah. You get an inspector to, check it out? Yeah. When you buy a car, you research the car? Yeah. A television? Yeah. I said, what's in these things that they're giving us, that they're injecting into it? Like, did you research it? No, I just trust the science. It's
What are you, a doctor? That's what you say. Something like, what, are you a doctor? You know nothing. You're just a roofer, right? Well, if I'm going to do a needle, it's going to be at least 100% heroin. Can I say that? No, I never do that, allegedly, right?
Yeah.
It's like that pastor that said that, So I feel like I'm on cocaine.
Yeah.
If I was on cocaine, which I never am.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
So, I mean, you realize everything is a lie. So if they lied about that, why wouldn't they lie about the shape of the earth?
Yeah, my whole thing is just like, I just don't see the purpose of it. You could still say it's not a globe. And
listen, I'll have to do, man, like, don't even take my word for it. You got to do a deep dive.
Of course.
In more than 5 minutes, right? And it might not seem important at the time. Most people are like, why? It's not going to change my life. But it actually does change your life. Because when you realize...
when that domino falls, they all fall.
That's it.
Right?
Then everything, God shows you everything. You start to see everything. It's like, all of a sudden you see, there's the moving pieces. That's what that's the intention of that. That's what this is. That's what that is. And you don't buy anything anymore.
And do we know at what point people started teaching that the Earth was a globe? Like at what point in time?
Was it the Rockefellers took over the education system?
I don't know. I'm just wondering if you guys know.
Early
Or
1900s?
Well, this is a whole other deep hole that most Christians don't really know about, because something happened in the 1500s, and Copernicus started saying, "Oh no, we revolve around the sun," and came up with this whole model that we are it's not geocentric anymore. So we are not the center of the earth. God, we're nothing. Basically, we're a speck of dust, and stars are, balls of gas trillions of light years away.
That was from Tumomba and
Exactly.
Pumbaa. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was trying that. Oh my gosh.
That's part of the brainwashing.
Yeah, exactly.
I did a truth video showing this and showing it. Even, remember It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
Right at the beginning. Hey, Clarence, come, and it's stars talking to one another, saying, you got to go and save that guy. So stars are for guides. They're guides. They're guiding lights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he went down and he saved, George Bailey from committing suicide. And so stars, what did Simba what did Simba's dad say to Simba? Oh, Simba, one day when God, you look up to the sky, and all the great kings, and then you got Timon. Right, and then you got
burning balls of freaking gas, you dumbass.
Oh, I thought they were great balls of gas burning, and it's like
and then he
everything
farts
is
again,
gas.
right?
Yeah, and then they all.
Yeah.
That's the most ridiculous thing. And they're like, Simba, what do you think? Well, and he finds a and then they ridicule him. That's classic what they do. They ridiculed me for saying, that every single life matters to the Creator.
Yeah.
We got off topic, but that's what we're getting on that story. Well, why you got canceled, right? We're doing a deep dive on.
But it's all connected.
Yeah.
Everything. The reason why they didn't want me to go on their shows, they wouldn't allow me after that, because they knew that I had done my due diligence, and I realized that I would have an answer for everything that they would say. And so they started, finally, when they started printing lies, I'm like, hey, wait a second. So then I started, and they literally would change my words. And so I started recording, and I told them, I said, listen, we sat down, and I'm like, recording this just in case, because I was supposed to do a show with the CBC on John Gomeshi's show before all this stuff happened, and they said, and I said, listen, if you're going to do it, it's got to be live. He's like, oh, yeah, no problem. No. Then they call me 5 minutes before. Oh, we have a technical issue, we can't be live. I'm like, no. There's no possible way that there can be a technical issue, It's got to be live. And then they flipped out on me. Well, we can't have you talking about the flat earth.
Right.
I'm like,
that's your boys saying this to you?
No.
That's the CBC. Okay.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Who cares about the flat Earth?
Yeah.
Like, why do you care so much about? Why do you care so much about the flat Earth?
And a sidebar before we go on is John Gomeshi was later convicted of, or he was convicted, right, of harassing or sexually assaulting some females, and then was kicked out. He was working for the CBC. He was a former singer, Moxie Früvous, too, which I used to love that bit. Yeah, remember Moxie Früvous? I used to love that bit.
Ladies,
yeah,
right?
They were like
he got fired too.
They were
having a good time.
Moxie Früvous was like a Canadian staple, right? Sort of like a fun, goofy band.
And he, he was MC for so many things, and and he was, friends with my manager, and I remember we had a meeting, all this stuff going on, and he actually was staying at my manager's place out in, wherever up north, and they had to come up with a story. And this is what they did. I remember the story that he came up with was to, distance himself, which is exactly what they ended up doing to me too.
Right.
So it's funny, the flat earth thing. So like I noticed like things I post online. So I had 19 restrictions put on this page that we're broadcasting on because I was posting memes about flat earth. What are they? Another time through my account history is another time I got all these restrictions was posting against the vaccines, which were all true. These vaccines are bad for you, are going against the government. So it's weird. Well, they don't want you to talk. Oh, you're. And then if you even mention it on the thing, everyone's like, "You're an idiot," right? Like that's what they go to. Like you don't look at these pictures from NASA, and it's like, like I can literally make a video right now on Mark's phone of me talking with Bill and Hillary Clinton. And you gotta know it looks so real. These guys have had this technology. For the last 30, 40 years.
Oh, totally. And even scientists, this one guy came up and he had like, he took a picture of a pepperoni and they called it and they did this whole thing.
I remember that.
He made it like it's this, distant thing, whatever. And everybody bought it.
Yeah.
And then he says it's pepperoni.
Yeah.
Like, so this is the thing. I mean, you can look at NASA pictures. Okay, that's not first-hand information that you've got. That's second-hand, third-hand, third-party, whatever. It's hearsay. You know what I mean? So until you actually go out there yourself and see that those are actually spheres out there, you do a 360 around the sun. You're like, yep, that's a sphere.
Have you ever seen the video where they go to the other side of the moon and it looks so comical? Can we show that? Oh my God! Look up the other side of the moon. It's like it's Elon Musk in a friggin' Corvette or whatever. He's driving around.
You know what the funny thing is that I figured out that date, right, when it was taken, and it's actually the time when it was supposedly the new moon, which doesn't make any possible sense for the light to be reflecting like in the way that it did. You know what I mean? Like if it all falls apart when someone starts doing.
You want to know a really cool thing that it was at Von Braun.
Yeah,
which is I think if you follow certain followers that these people are like fallen angels, they never die. So that would be Elon Musk.
That's what I believe too.
So that's the Book of Enoch. We can get to that. It's great.
Oh yeah.
And that's what all the craters are. Craters aren't meteorite strikes. No. They're the 200 fallen angels, which is 1/3 of God's angels, which is 33.
Exactly.
It's Freemasonry.
It's exactly what it is.
So okay, well I like this guy. I've never met him before, by the way. He's a friend of Mark's. So that's the first time me and Remy have ever.
Yeah, I knew you guys would be a good mix.
Is that why you brought him on here?
Well, no, Remy would just happen to be in town, and we've been trying to get him on here for a while.
Let's tell the story about how you got canceled. We're kind of getting sidetracked. We're too much alike. We share the same interests.
Which we should still talk about. I think even when Remy's back home, we should probably have you on more often, and we could just chat about things, right? Even remotely.
Yeah.
But so I mean, if we want to talk about that, I just was going to ask a couple things. Was after that happened, I remember seeing, obviously, knowing you, knowing your heart, and knowing exactly what you were trying to accomplish there, and it falling short, and then being dubbed the lone wolf or whatever. Like I was just like, give me a break.
That was a label given to me by my band.
I saw that in a tweet, right? In a tweet.
No, it was actually when they were in the MLB room when they were trying to come up with a statement to say that I was off my meds or all of these kinds of things that they're trying to make up to say that I was bipolar or whatever, and then they're like, oh no, then that's going to open up another can of worms, and so then he took it to the MLB, all the types of things, and he said, oh no, what it was Fraser that said, because he actually wanted to take credit for it, because they said, no, let's go with the lone wolf, and he's like, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's actually a great moniker. Like that's a great nickname. Like you are the lone wolf. Like that. Like own that, right?
You know what's crazy? Like this is the thing: is that it literally became my moniker.
Yeah.
And because I was alone amongst a sea of people who were ridiculing me, whether it was on the tour bus, or my fans were laughing at me, coming on my Facebook and like ridiculing me.
Yeah.
Who I thought were fans, what I mean? Obviously, they weren't. And so I lost a whole bunch of fans from that. Family members, you know what I mean? Like people that I would never thought, and in the industry, people that I wrote songs with, it's crazy. They not returning phone calls. Like I was literally isolated completely. And then that's when the media came in and lone wolf, lone wolf, lone wolf, and 5 things you need to know about the lone wolf. He's an anti-vaxxer and he believes the earth is flat, and,
Just to make you look like,
like
a crazy person or whatever.
Exactly.
10 years later, you look like the rest of us. You look like you started. Maybe here's the reason why I got here. Thank you. I owe you. Thank you.
Well, this was because it was 2014 when I woke up to the flat Earth, and that's why I was like, man, I got to tell everybody. I got people. You got to ask questions. You got to figure this out. And so it was quite different than today. Like today, people are like, with the release of all the files, it's like everything that I was talking about back then, and people were ridiculing me.
And a lot of people in the files you probably came across performing, right? Because so in 2000, that was 2016 is when this was it 2016?
July 12th, 2016.
Right.
I'll never forget. It changed my life.
I bet. And then, so before you went out there, did the guys know that you were going to do this? I've seen mixed things on there, so they had no idea.
No idea. I woke up that morning and I had lost my mom's brother, my uncle Manny. He passed away, and I had sung for him, but like I had amounted so much information, and I knew that Soros was paying for agent provocateurs in the streets, and I could see that this was another one of those false flag things, and a concerted funded effort in order to incite violence, because as soon as there's blood running in the streets, that's when they make money.
Right.
George Soros makes money off of guns. You know what I mean? Like if you look what happened to Portland, you know what I mean? After all that stuff went down. So I knew these things, and I realized that to me, God created everybody. He died on the cross for all lives. He didn't just die for,
Right.
And if all lives don't matter, then whose life matters first?
Right.
This is crazy to me. And to me, it was like, obviously, the system is pitting us one against one another. Meanwhile, here we are at the MLB, and there's cops everywhere. But look at the teams. You got Mexicans, you got Filipinos, you got
multicultural,
everything.
Yeah.
All lives playing the game, and all lives being protected. But then you got the media that wants to run their mouth on whatever suits their agenda, and I didn't suit their agenda, and they needed to spit me out somehow as quick as possible.
So when you're walking out onto the field and you have the note on you, are you thinking of the repercussions? Like, did you think that did you like have an idea that this all will transpire? Like, were you ready to just call it quits, or did you think that people would be like, he's right, let's all unify? Because I know when I saw it, I was like, I knew what you were trying to do, and I knew that you were trying to bring people together and realize this is all silly, and we all need to love each other, right?
It was bigger than me. I was in the hotel room, and I had just seen the video of Alton Sterling, right? And I realized that all of this is propaganda anyways. Like, do we even know if he's really dead? Like, where are the death certificates for any of these people? Charlie Kirk, where's the death certificate? So, but at the time, I was moved, and then the Dallas police were shot. I was moved. I'm like, guys, like, we need to unite as a people, because it's not us against each other. You know what I mean? It's literally us against the principalities and high places that are creating this, so that we are fighting one another, so we don't realize the little birdie that's over here, and now we got surveillance. Like, what happened to 911 after 9/11?
It was all surveillance.
Yeah.
That's why they did it.
Everything, then you couldn't go to the airport with water.
Yeah.
You couldn't bring this on the plane.
I remember it was always like a yellow warning, like it's a somewhat dangerous today. For like 12 years, like it was always that like caution sign in the airport, like there could be a possible terrorist threat any moment right now. Where you were
exactly. And that's the whole point of all of these things, is because they literally have a game, and they're basically calling the shots before they happen, and then they have every angle covered. So how they say don't let any whatever event go to waste. So what they do is they have their the next plan coming in. And this is what you say when this happens. That's why you have public relations, crisis management, and media, and that's what they called in,
right?
And they didn't allow me to have my word. They didn't want my word to go out there, because they were like, it's a race. Whoever says their story first is what people are going to believe. But if you go into Proverbs, it says, that's until the next person comes and tests that theory. You know what I mean? And at that point, they don't allow that. So they don't allow you to get on the platform anymore. And the platform is all placed people who are part of the agenda, whether they know it or not, because all they do is they read a prompter, and they might be cool people, but they're just doing their job. And it's like, you see those images of like that news station, this, and it's like all of them saying the exact same thing in a choir.
Yeah.
Even followers, like people that have their own page now, they just follow what the media says. So they, like, even like say you have a small Instagram page and you got 10,000 followers, you're like, I want more views, so I'm going to talk about what the same people up there talk. So they just follow in line.
Well, it's an algorithm now, and it's literally a current, current events. So you have to go with the current, not against. If you're mainstream, you're fine. But if you start swimming the opposite way, they're going to try and get you right out of that brook
we
really
felt that a bunch of times. I mean, we've been pushed down a lot.
And
you guys are probably shadow banned and censored. And that's exactly.
I'm proud of it. It's like a badge of honor.
It is, but the thing is like when you're trying to make a living, and they don't allow your music to be seen. They don't allow they reduce. I have videos of my views going backwards.
Same.
I've got videos of like, I got like 3 likes, and then you like it, and then it rolls up, and you see like all of a sudden 200 likes, and then back down to 3.
Yeah.
Now, I literally filmed this real time, showing the people so that they know that everything is fake.
Yeah.
Bots. They're called bots for a reason, because they're bought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only are they robots, but they're literally purchased. And so nothing, everything is for show. I mean, we live in a plastic world, fake boobs, fake lips, fake food, fake science, fake, religions. And, the only thing that is the truth, right? When you come down to it, is like the Bible, like we talked about earlier. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Let your yes be yes, and that's being a man of your word.
Yeah.
And the word is the word is God. First there was the word was God. So that's like a frequency of truth that people need to realize, that we live in a spiritual world, and people are too preoccupied with the material things, and that's unfortunately what everybody is out there looking at, because that's all that they dish. They don't dish, even in movies, they ridicule people talking about the meaning of life. You know what I mean? 2 people sitting and what's the meaning of life? It's like, oh my God, it's sappy, whatever. You know what I mean? And even in the cartoons, ridiculing the one that's being told the truth, that's telling the truth. And then so you start feeling that, and then you don't want to talk about it. You start, you get canceled. Oh, I'm not going to go there anymore and say these things.
Fall in line.
Once it starts hitting your bottom line, I mean, look what happened. People who were forced to get something, they're basically body raped, and they were forced because why? Well, they need to keep up the 4 walls. They need to, pay for mom and dad. How are they going to do that?
People will die for their kids too, right? So they
know
live
that.
in check to check. They knew that. So that's the thing with these cell phones. They watch us, and they knew how to.
100%.
And the other part that really about all this, like I said this years ago, they're starting doing this 23andMe. And I was like, oh, go get your swab and check out what your DNA is. I'm like, I would never give my DNA to anybody, let alone a stranger, because you needed a warrant to get that. As far as I know, I watched enough CSI.
They're like, we're going to get it for free.
Like,
make them pay for it. We're going to earn money.
Yeah. They're going to say like 8 or 2 billion people are going to give us their DNA. And then 23andMe was big from, I think it was like 2007, 8 got big. And then and then they did that for 12 years. And it's almost they used it. I mean, I don't know this, but just looking at the whole situation, they used all that information to attack us.
Exactly.
So they knew who was weak, they knew everything about you. You're giving up your DNA. You don't know the technology these people have. So you gave everything that it takes you need to have a warrant to get.
Yeah.
And people were just, I want to see if I'm part dingo or whatever it is. Yeah. And the funny thing is people started taking these swabs and sending them in. They're doing dog shit. They're doing, and they're getting back results. So they're just lying to you.
You're Canadian.
Yeah. No way, right? You're a roofer, right? Yeah.
That's actually just dog shit, actually.
That should be funny. We should actually rub a 23andMe in a shingle and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, cancel culture then is a little bit different. I mean, it still happens now, but not like it was. Like, when in 2016 and like for a few years there, it was nuts.
The Freedom Convoy was really bad too. Like, we lost hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of followers and money.
Yeah.
Right? Just because we
Again, Democrats were in power then too, right? So it's a little bit different. And Zuckerberg was all on their side and being told to squash everything.
Wizard.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he switched his team. He's pandering now to the Republicans, so he doesn't lose his shit, and he keep all his money and his paychecks coming in.
He's Switzerland.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I mean, once they realize that people are onto them, they just kind of move the goalpost, and they find another way to get, to people. And so what they do is they end up putting, controlled opposition, and they give them all the views. And all, you got to ask yourself, for the people who do have all the views and everything, how nobody, like I said earlier, the door opens from the inside.
Yeah.
And if you're still in there after so many years, it's because you know what's going on the inside and you're okay with it. You know what I mean? Or you're completely compromised, but even at that, is it worth to lose your soul for the riches of this world,
Like saying that this is fake, like viewership, what they make you think, like all these women can't be selling porn and making millions of dollars doing it. It can't be, because it's all, it's basically available for free, but they make normal housewives say, I can sell a picture of my body online for make money. I can be just like this one that made 100,000 this year. So they literally destroying what a mother should be or what a family should be. And I honestly can't believe that there can't be that many guys paying for porn online. That this woman's making 100 million. She's making 20 million. And I think even now there's advertisements for women selling feet photos. Who the fuck is buying a foot photo?
It's so weird.
Right? Like,
it's so weird.
That's such bullshit. I don't give a that's as stupid as a globe earth as far as I'm
paint your nails and try it. Paint your toenails and try it out. Maybe you'll make some money.
Okay, this week, who wants to, right now, let's do a vote.
A roofer foot?
Who wants to buy a picture with my corn-infested roofer foot? Right?
I bet you there's probably people.
Well, I should be a millionaire next episode. Like, anyways, here on podcast canceled. I'm a billionaire for selling pictures of my feet.
Yeah.
In this world, I don't put anything past anything anymore.
It's the devil's world, right? Satan will buy anything for that.
It is totally. And I think, people are starting to wake up. At least, sometimes I look at the comments and, I see a bunch of laughs at something that normally before would be like, everybody would love it, And so I'm like, at least either hopeful. I'm just hoping that people are finally getting it and realize that the last 5 years was a complete, test, to see how far they could take some of this stuff. But, you see things like, for instance, I think at one point I released a sacred song, and the views went crazy within 4 days there was like 4,000 views, and I was like, oh man, this is going somewhere, and then all of a sudden it just dead stopped. It's like, hold on the reins, we let that one go too far. And so nothing is real anymore, and so that's why people need to start to really do the research themselves.
Well, it's doing that, like noticing how they can control all the likes and views and followers, all that. You can play with it a bit. So me and Mark were doing videos about how we were patronizing, and we knew the left was going to gut us. So we're going to tax liberals 25%, like see what happens. Like, so we made this video about taxing liberals and put it out. So it got some traction, and I had to put it out again, but we already made a retaliation video, and it was Justin Bieber's "Love Yourself," but we said, go fuck yourself. Oh, yeah. So we had this video waiting. It was about taxing liberals. And when it went. It is in the hundreds of millions, because liberals seen it. His conservatives charging people like, we want to close this business. So I was getting 1,000 phone calls a day on my.
Wow.
So like we used it as, it was a marketing tool. Like the left, the crazy left mob was one of my best marketers. It was all for free.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to pay a little bit. We lost our YouTube channel, and had a couple people threaten my children and family. But I mean, they're just behind the computer screen. I don't think they actually had me.
We had almost 90,000 followers on the YouTube, and they yanked it from us.
And then I've gone 7 TikToks, so we lost. I had almost 300,000 on TikTok when we went to Ottawa. That went down, and I'm on my 7th TikTok, 3rd Facebook, 3rd YouTube.
And that's why we stopped doing this podcast. We started a couple years ago, and it was doing well. And then, when you talk about things like the vaccine and things like that back then, no way. So we just stopped doing it. We're like, this is not worth it. We're spending all this time and resources and money on doing this, but nobody's seeing it, right?
I know. And he's the principality of the air, right? He owns the airwaves.
Yeah.
So you're playing in his feet.
Playground, yeah.
And so one of his minions are going to get to you. Like, my numbers have never gone. When I did that recording with Stitch, A Day of Judgment, I released it and it was like 2,000 views within an hour. And all of a sudden my whole channel disappeared.
That's so crazy.
And why? Because I had like some imagery of Freemasonry at the beginning, and
Yeah.
and the Bible, and the whole thing, and I mean, I did a speech over. I was asked to play at the courthouse in Ottawa in 2021, and as soon as I was starting to talk about Freemasonry and how the media is owned, all of a sudden Chris Sky comes out with megaphones and starts to like crash my speech.
No way.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then he was trying to, and then he was taking the microphone, and there was like these Mennonite choir that was supposed to sing, about God, and he was trying to push his book, and I'm like, these are the types of people that come in that they pay in order to lead the opposition and grift over, like, of course he's got all these truths, he's got all these people behind him, he's got Alex Jones and all of these guys, but I mean, you realize, who does Alex Jones work for? You start to figure the things out.
Yeah, I never really knew anything about that Chris Sky guy. Like I knew, I used to see him all over the place, and then all of a sudden, is he still doing stuff? Like, is he gone?
He played his part, right? And then he had enough people. He was running for mayor.
I remember that.
Mayor where?
Toronto.
Oh, really?
You don't remember that?
Yeah, I must have lived on a rock. Yeah, I don't know much about the guy. I remember hearing the name and seeing his face all over the place.
Yeah.
I never really paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I haven't seen him around. Like, I've kind of disassociated myself with all this stuff because I was like looking at everything and analyzing everything. And at some point you realize, I know the truth. I know that this is all.
So were you there for the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa?
I didn't end up going down at that point. I was dealing with the death of my mother, and so, but I have family members that went, and then I mean, you start seeing that. I mean, come on, man, you must have hit a nerve when they're going into your bank accounts and freezing your bank accounts for simply exercising your constitutional right of freedom of assembly.
So we went up there and raised money. We brought up boxes of Tim Hortons cards because they're closed in people's accounts. So we just we gave out. So
Awesome.
I think it was almost nearly $10,000 we had in increments of $10 cards. So we walked up three big boxes full of these cards. Because I don't know if you're familiar, me and Mark wrote the Freedom Song.
Oh, you did?
That was the Freedom Song for the Freedom Convoy.
Oh my God!
You probably don't know. I was Mr. Freedom. The guy with the red painted face and the fur jacket.
That
So I was the January 6th of Canada.
Wow.
So the media took my picture after they canceled we lost a couple pages, and they're like, "We need a picture of you." And I'm in front with the red ensign and the thing, and they're like, they took my image. Like, this guy's gonna kick in the windows. And I'm like, I came here to give out Tim Hortons cards and hugs, man. And I'm the famous roofer. Yeah. And they didn't know that, so they put me all on the tabloids. Like, I was this dark image, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, everyone's like, that's best damn roofer. That guy's he's awesome, right?
Yeah,
He makes us laugh. And so I was front row. Yeah. So me and Mark, you didn't know that about me because we don't even know each other. But
that's
Freedom
crazy.
was our song. Mark actually wrote most of it.
I'm trying to find a photo of remember I don't know if it was the CBC or one of those news outlets. A bunch of them were using his face.
That's that one image, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
this is what they do. I mean, you cannot have a platform unless they're controlling it.
So they really dinged me up pretty good. We still have quite a bit of followers, right? I mean, I'm probably 500,000 or 600,000 followers still, but we'd be in the multiple millions.
Yeah.
And they didn't. For me, I'm very outspoken, like, and I'll tell anybody off, like, oh, you think you're working for the government? Like, the government, that guy's a pedophile, like, you know what I mean?
I love this photo.
And that's Mr. Freedom. That's
no
me.
way.
We even got on this Daily Show because I did a joke about voting for Donald Trump at the Canadian election.
Wow.
Because me and Mark were going.
Oh, yeah.
We planned to go viral. I'm like, if I put an American suit on and put Donald Trump at the bottom of the ballot, like,
it was the provincial elections.
People are gonna shit an ice cream cake,
Wow.
and they literally did. Like, we got like, I think that one got 30 or 40 million views, and then I forget his last name, Matt whatever from the Daily Show reached out to me. He's like, "Would you like to do an episode with us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, who wouldn't want to be on Comedy Central? That's pretty cool."
Wow.
So yeah, we got a lot of heat for that too. People are like,
that's
it's part of the game.
You also got a cease and desist letter from the Canadian government because he showed his ballot. The one thing when he was going in there was like, just don't show the ballot, just show the bottom of it. But he didn't give
it was AI,
like, whatever.
Allegedly.
So
you're a shitty lawyer.
Shortly after that, he got a cease and desist, and we had to take the video down, unfortunately. But
it's still on Comedy Central.
Yeah, a few other people had already taken it and used it for, like, it's all over Twitter. You can still find it, right?
Yeah.
And he wore the suit. It was all like stars and stripes, and he walked right into the thing and voted for Donald Trump.
Mark, I'm like, you know, it's gonna go super viral. I was like, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was like we've done a couple of planned attacks for like how we use people's minds, because that's what the government's doing. They're using you for all their little chores. So like, I kind of found a way to like lock into that and like, okay, I'll use it for media. And sometimes, you know, you don't eat when we're doing, because we have really no control. We're just opening up that door and like whatever comes through it. Yeah. We got some.
It's quieted down quite a bit, though. I remember when the Democrats were in power, it was much worse, because we would post something like Josh posted that video about taxing liberals 25%, and he's out front of a house. He's a roofer,
My
obviously.
friend's house.
Yeah, and saying, you know, he's going to tax this liberal homeowner 25% because he doesn't like liberals or whatever, and it fucking went. It was like wildfire. It was crazy.
I'm gonna kill your kids. Like we had like angry gay men. Like I'm gonna give you AIDS. It was crazy.
What we did was we started a phone number, a hotline, and we just threw it out there, like sort of on its own, and then they started calling it and leaving their voicemails. So we were flipping that into content of like people yelling at him, wanting to kill him.
Wow.
And then so I filmed him calling some people back. And the one lady was like, I'm going to call the police. You're going to charge liberals extra? And she like, it was like, and then that one went viral, right? So we were just using it against them. Like, fuck these people.
Yeah. Well, they use comedy in order to, you know, give their message in a, you know, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. So you never really know, you know, if it's real or not. And so this is the only way to get back at them is, you know, through the same, you know, because people will
Fire with fire.
This is the thing, you know, and it's interesting because it reminds me of, you know, that photo, that guy with the horns.
That's the January 6th guy.
Yeah, January 6th guy. Well,
QAnon, whatever they called them.
Yeah, so they, you know, they put the poster child. He's the guy. This is it. Meanwhile, there's like videos of them literally, you know, orchestrating. Okay, go here, go there.
Piles of bricks, places and stuff like that.
Yeah, cops inside. You know, like it's just the whole thing was a show.
Yeah.
So I was at a Trump rally, and someone gave me tickets for a Trump rally when I was at a roofing convention. So I'm like, okay, I'll go for content. And he's in one of my videos. The QAnon guy. He's in the background.
Oh,
and I'm like, it was just funny how things about. Yeah, he's in.
And you didn't even know, right?
Me and Papa John, right? So I found out years later that guy's in one of my videos, right?
Yeah. We see what they want is they want that percentage of the populace that would not know and would just believe it, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, we stem from love, and so we assume that someone is telling the truth when they're talking to you. And so we give them the benefit of the doubt, you know, but they play on that. They play with Christians all the time, using us to be able to, you know, get their agendas out. And
well, you look at COVID with the COVID shot. They trusted the government. If you don't take it, they turn to you again. Your neighbor hates you because you're not going to take an experimental injection. You don't even know what's in it. What's your? You know, I used to tell people,
snitches.
What's your favorite ingredient
in
the vaccine? And they're like, you're an idiot, right? Like, I'm just asking.
Would it be monkey brains or would it be like mercury?
Or would it be Jeffrey Epstein's DNA?
Oh,
you heard about that, right?
That's
just a joke, though. They were just joking those emails.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
He would never do that.
Yeah. Just like the WHO was joking about the zombie apocalypse.
Of course. It's always jokes, right? Or how McDonald's serves up, there's a 2% DNA in their food. Everyone's like, it's just from handling it or hair. I'm like, they serve 6 million pounds a day.
Yeah.
Do 2% of 6 million pounds per day.
Yeah.
2% of that's millions of pounds of human DNA.
I would love to know the percentage. Obviously, we'd never get this information, but of people that actually took the vaccine that are now like, fuck,
they're dead.
I just mean like we're like, I wish I hadn't done it, because I remember like I would get into arguments with people.
I know
right?
a lot of people that wish they hadn't. For
Yeah.
sure. Oh yeah, almost. You know, I mean, they end up having whatever it is that they had before. It just exasperates that, you know, even more. So and they end up with this turbo cancer. All of these things all these new terms for things come out to try and explain what we already know.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, SIDS, remember when I was younger, SIDS, but we were walking in line at school, they jab you in the cafeteria when you're 8 years old. Like,
That's exactly
some
what
kid died last week. Oh, it's just sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah.
Just happens.
I mean, I'm vaccine injured. Like, I mean, what they called, it was idiopathic thrombocytopenia, where they don't know where it comes from or what you can do to get it or anything, you know? And all of a sudden, when all this started happening, a doctor in Florida died of, now they call it vaccine-induced thrombocytopenia, because he got the exact same thing that I got, where your immune system starts to eat away at your platelets, and your body, I mean, you could bleed to death. And that's what he did. And you had all these, blood blisters in your mouth and a petechiae all over your face and blood, you're bleeding from the outside.
Jeez.
From the inside and the
That's
outside.
not, so do you have to take meds for that now, or like?
No, I went on a plant-based diet and everything started to change from that moment. Yeah, in 2014, I had my last steak and that was it. All of a sudden, everything changed for me. And I was able to see clearly as well. And no more brain fog after that, and energy out, just crazy energy. So that's all I did. I don't take any meds. I don't take any pharmaceuticals. I don't take any vitamins.
I don't take any, yeah.
I don't trust them. I mean, they're all made from the same company. One's trying to save us, one's trying to kill us.
Vitamin B12 is literally made from human waste. It says right in, you look at it, it's like it's froth from fucking sewage. And you're putting it, so when you drink those energy drinks, it's actually got shit in it. You can look at it. Well, vitamin B12, there's 2 different types, but a lot of them have the one that's scraped off human waste.
When you live in a city, you're just drinking the water that you just...
Toilet to tap, right? That's their, in 31 days, it goes from your asshole to your mouth.
And so you, and so obviously you living sort of off grid, which I'm very jealous of. Do you have like a little homestead? And you said you have to go somewhere to get your water. Like you don't have water on site, nothing like that.
No, I got no running water. I got no electricity.
No electricity?
No. I have solar panels that I use for lights. Literally, turn on the light, and I have no electrical bills. The only thing, if I need a gen for anything, if I'm doing music, but even that is kind of difficult because the gen, if I'm recording something, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
you can hear it.
So, but you realize that you don't really need much electricity. You know what I mean? You have other sources to heat, which is burning of firewood, and that's your heat, and you cook your food right on it. So that's your stove, and you realize the comforts that we have. I mean, I'm staying at an Airbnb right now. I'm like, oh wow, look at this. I can brush my teeth with the water. I don't have to take something and drink it, and then what I mean?
Yeah.
Or go in a bucket or whatever.
And how long have you been living out there?
Since 2021.
Okay.
And grow my own garden and.
Do you have chickens? Do you get eggs?
Eggs, that was one thing that because I'm being plant-based, that the whole thing about the animals, it's an unfertilized egg, so there's nothing really growing in it. Yeah. So that was okay. So they're like pets.
Yeah.
And I got Great Pyrenees dog too. Yeah.
Oh, Pyrenees are my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're protectors.
They are.
They are protectors.
I rescued this boy. He was 2 years old, and then I rescued a mutt from Texas, and then she ended up passing. I wanted him to have a friend, and she passed away 4 months later. Then I rescued another Great Pyrenees, and then we ended up having pups. I'm like, oh my god, Great Pyrenees pups!
You got a little farm there.
How many is it going to be? It was only 4, and we found homes for them all. So, yeah, it's the thing is that you realize that I go into Halifax to go do some vocal coachings and stuff like that, and when you see where I'm staying right now, it's like every house is stuck together, everything is so close together, like everybody's in your face, you see everybody, and it's just like when you live in the woods and your neighbor is like the squirrel that comes over and gets on your shoulder and you're feeding it in the morning, and I literally there was a goose, a baby goose that came swimming from the middle of the lake, and I'm like, what the hell? And all of a sudden this goose is hanging around me while I'm doing the build, and just hung out and then just stayed with me. I had to teach it how to fly, and then you when you live those moments, you just, life changes, man. You're on a different timeline completely as everybody else, and that's why I kind of put a lot of the all the negative truth stuff. I see it all the time. I know it's there. I've figured a lot of that stuff out, but now it's time to spend time with God. Reading the Bible. I read 4 chapters every day of the Bible just to be immersed in the Word and to get close to God, because you realize that we're only here for a finite amount of time. It's a spiritual world. Once you go down the rabbit hole, you realize, okay, well, I'm going to have to make an account for everything that I've done here. You know what I mean? Before I'm going to where I'm going.
And it sounds like you're focused on the positive versus what a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it, the doom scrolling and people just focusing on all the terrible, right now there's bombs dropping all over the place. People are arguing about everything. Like there's times where I literally want to throw my phone into the trash because I feel awful by what I'm reading, and it just, you don't realize what it does to your brain and to like even your biology. I sort of just feel gross, and I'm just like, I just wish that I would have
Makes you unhappy.
Yeah, it
That's
does.
What they want. They want you unhappy
and like anxious. And
That's the whole point of it. You know that, eh? Like, it's a frequency, and I mean, think about it. You turn on a radio, you turn a dial, and you hear someone that's 500 miles away talking on a, you know, and whatever that person says, or if you walk into a room and you go to a party and everything's all great, you know what I mean? But you have no idea that in another room, someone was just murdered. Whoever was in that room and saw that has a completely different perspective of that party than you did. You know what I mean? If you had no idea of what happened. And so these are our solar panels. You know, these are our you know, this, everything we take here and everything we take here, you know, the Bible says it's not what goes in you that defiles you, what comes out, you know. But at the same time, if you're constantly taking in that information all the time, it affects you. Being an empath, you're going to be affected, and stress, you know, causes illness, and that is what ends up, you know, it's like you wake up first thing in the morning, you know, you scroll, you see, you know, children being killed in Gaza, you know, you see everything, you know, like, well, that day, when, you know, that fateful day, I woke up and it was like, I saw, you know, this guy that was like beating the crap out of a sheep, and then, you know, shearing, and then literally cutting off its feet with, you know, and I'm like, what the hell?
Jeez.
And I'm thinking I'm wearing stuff that has this animal on it, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so at some point, life starts to, you know, you grow up as a kid and everything is, you know, dreams, and, you know, believe in your dream and this and that, and you can reach the stars and all this kind of stuff. And then you grow up and you realize, man, nothing is what it was. You know what I mean?
Right, because you lived that whole like rock star life. Like you said, you were face down, just going to show after show after show.
Yeah.
And then was there were you happy, like, once that happened and they were like, okay, we got to part ways with you? At what point did you come to terms with it? And what time, like, were you okay with it right away, or did it take some time for you to be like was it a battle?
No, I mean, when, you know, in what I felt, so getting back to the story, on that day, I had seen all this stuff and all that, and I fell to my knees and I said, God, tell me what I need to do. What can I do, you know, to do something, you know? And that's what came to me, you know, literally take a sign, put all lives matter on it, and united we stand. And that was my sign, and that was it. And I kept it my thing, and I went to sound check. You know, I was bawling my eyes out, you know, and I'm not sure if the guys probably didn't even pay attention, you know, and I'm singing, and then I get picked up to go back to the hotel. And I'm thinking, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? You know, and you were asking me if, you know, if I thought that the outcome would be as it was. I didn't really think about an outcome in a way that I knew that I was doing what God asked me to do. So who am I to, you know, and it sounds crazy because, you know, when I say that in the papers, you know, God told me to do it, people go, he's definitely crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, but to me, I felt like I'm on the right, I know that Jesus died for all of us. And so if you can't understand what 3 words in English means, that a 3-year-old can understand what all lives means, now you're trying to change what the English words mean into what you want it to mean in order to push an agenda. Right. And that's exactly what they were doing. And, you know.
Well, yeah, at that time, Black Lives Matter was a big thing. Everyone, it's sort of like...
Actually, it was, but this is before Kaepernick even took a knee.
Right. No, I agree with you.
You know, so like... His shirt was still not the number 1 shirt sold everywhere.
Right.
It was just before, but Jennifer Lopez had done something apparently, and then she went back and said, "Oh no, sorry, you know, I made a mistake." But I didn't, you know. I said, "I'm sorry, but that you don't understand what it is that I'm saying."
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they didn't want to understand. It was like, because I think Black Lives Matter started in 2013, and then this is a few years after it. And then, of course, there was a couple of shootings that involved black children, and then there was protests, and it was a hot button issue. But people failed to even give you an opportunity to sort of say, "Look, I totally understand that," and sort of say everything you're saying here. And that was one thing when I remember watching and then seeing the subsequent tweets and things, and I was just like there's one tweet I saw the other day actually, and it was something like, "Yeah, he should just go ahead and deport himself," or something like just bullshit.
Oh, what Canadians do to kill themselves, you know, get a Zamboni or get under, like, everything. I had threats, people saying I'm going to come to you. My car window was smashed. You know, I had people who lived where I lived in Port Colborne saying I'm going to come to you and do this, and I didn't leave my house for 3 months.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I thought, man, I have to go out with a disguise or something because I don't know where it's going to be coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were literally defecating on my lawn. They destroyed all my garden. You know, that my mom had done. You know, they were calling my mom like everything you could imagine, and so. That's what they do, but they had no idea. Like if they had done the research that I had done, you know, it would be different. Their eyes just weren't open. They weren't ready for the message.
And how did that make you feel during those times? Was when you wanted to articulate that and how exactly what you're saying?
They wouldn't let me do it then.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that, and what did you do in the interim, like during that time when all that stuff was going on?
I just put my focus into trying to do music. You know, I made a couple of phone calls, and nobody would answer me. Nobody wanted to come near me. You know, with a 100-foot pole.
Right.
No man. Even to this day, no manager, no agent. You know, nobody. And but you know, the thing is that the tides are changing. There were some people that knew me, you know, from back home, and it's like, you guys have this wrong. But who has the greater platform at this point, and who monopolizes it? And so you're kind of stuck with whatever they put out there, and that's what people think until they start. And it's crazy because literally the day before it happened, I had an anti-racism thing on my page, but not one of them picked it up.
Well, of course.
You know, it was the one where the guy's on the plane, you know, and there's a black man on the plane, and the lady's sitting there, and the guy sits next to her, and she's like, "Oh, I cannot," you know, and you know, and she's like, this cannot be. And so the lady leaves and comes back, and she thinks that she's going to be put into first class, you know. Meanwhile, she takes him and puts him in first class. So that was on my page, you know. But do you think one media even picked that up?
No. And it's kind of sad that your bandmates didn't go to bat for you and be like, "Hey, we understand that maybe the timing was not great for this, but what Remy was trying to say is this," and you know, and sort of like have your back a little bit, you know what I mean?
Well, they promised me that they would let me speak. You know what I mean? But not that first one. You know, they wanted to get their thing out first.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, guys, why don't you just like? To me, it's like, yeah, you know, we don't agree with what he did.
Right.
But we're going to let him speak for himself.
Exactly.
But that never happened.
To me, they would have been able to save face in my books and a lot of other people's books had they done that, right? Well, I get that they were probably like, "Okay, man, you threw us off. Like, what the hell are you doing?" Yeah. But at least, like you said, give you an opportunity to sort of say, "This is why I did it."
I see that. You know, I didn't give them the opportunity to tell me, "Hey, don't do it." You know,
that's true.
I totally get that point. But in the end, what's the truth? I mean, you tell me that you believe that all lives matter behind closed doors. So why don't you do it in the front?
Yeah.
Can we see this actual video? Is
it's online.
Yeah, it's all online.
I've never seen it, and there might be a lot of people that are watching.
Well, in the middle of it happening, there's no real, like, there's nothing happens during the performance. Like, as they're singing, Remy decides, and then so did they just stop singing? I can't remember what happened. Like,
no, they saw that I was singing a few different words, and I basically, you know, because in the French version, which is what we do English and French, and I sang "Car ton bras c'est porter l'épée, c'est porter la croix," which means because your arm knows how to carry the cross, it knows how to carry the sword. Well, to me, the sword is the cross.
Right.
Violence, no. You know, Jesus came, you know, here, the Prince of Peace. Obviously, the word is the sword. And so to me, I'm like, well, those are the lines that I'm going to change. And I'm going to say that, you know, we're all brothers and sisters. All lives matter to the great I am. And, you know, they're like, "Oh, he doesn't even know how to rhyme a word, tone deaf," you know, like all of these things. And, well, you know, you tried and sing in front of 64,000 people and, you know, and 32 million on TV and go up there and say something that you know that you believe
needs to be said.
That needs to be said, you know, and that to me is the truth. And I'm going to stand by the truth. And that's, you know, I got the whole audio from behind the scenes because as soon as I saw that, you know, the guys were like flipping out. I had been in that situation with the band before where during meetings they would put words in my mouth, and I'm like, this is not happening anymore. You know, I started recording the meetings and I could say, "Look, this is what you said," you know? Right. So I did that. And you know, they know that all lives matter. Of course they do, but they won't, you know, they won't go ahead because it hurts their bottom line, you know.
Yeah.
And I can understand that everybody's in a different situation. I don't care about money, you know. That's not my motivator. My motivator is helping people and the truth.
Yeah.
You know, God, like, you know, and to me, if God is telling me this is what you got to do, you know, I didn't think that it would break up the band. I mean, the band has done things before that people don't even know about that, you know, could have broken up the band. Other members, you know, doing things but so I thought, you know, like, we're brothers, you know. I think they just probably saw the light flashing before their eyes, and you know, then they get on the media and they do all their media things, and you know, the crazy thing is how God works. They went on ABC, and the anchor woman, her last name was Perreira. Like, I mean, what are the chances of that?
Yeah.
And then she says, you know, like, do you think there's a chance that, you know, like, when you're given lemons, you make lemonade? You know, you do something, you know, can you turn this into something, you know? And they didn't even want to discuss that. They're talking about, you know, them singing for the Queen and all that and everything that they did, and, you know, and, but, you know, I don't fault them for it. They're at some point in life when you're faced with mortality, none of this stuff is going to matter.
For sure.
You know, and at that point, the only thing that's going to matter is your soul, like your life. You know what I mean? So while you're here, you might as well think about everybody else's life, all lives, as opposed to just your own, because that's exactly what God asked us to do. Jesus was telling us, you know, like, I mean, leave all your riches, you know, and come and join me and feed the poor and help the poor. And that's what I'm doing right now. You know, like, I don't have a ladder to climb, you know. It's because it's all, you know, snakes with ladders that you're climbing on. Yeah. And people are okay to climb on top of other people in order to get ahead. And that's just not me, you know. So now,
have you thought about reaching out to them and having a conversation to say, let's just water under the bridge or anything?
I have, you know, and like when it all happened, they were kind of dividing the fans up because a lot of the, you know, half of the fans were having a hard time with the fact that they didn't back me up, and others were like completely against me, and so then they were like, you know, putting fibs into the mix, and then I had fans coming back. You didn't even apologize. I'm like, wait a second, man. I got the audio, man. I apologized to them 12 times in you can hear it, you know, and but I, you know, when there was mediation, Vic and I saw each other and we hugged and we cried, and then we went to mediation, and it's like none of that stuff mattered, because then when it comes down to dollars and cents, you know, they're trying to make sense, you know, and I'm just trying to make sense.
Right, of course. That makes sense. I mean, I totally understand from their point of view too. It is their career at the same time. Yeah,
you know, and I had people like Brett Wilson saying, you know, I love you, but you did the wrong thing, you know, and I had everybody coming out of the woodwork. Even Don Cherry saying, you know, oh, he's a far, you know, left, whatever. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, as far,
unleft.
Yeah. And then what happened to him?
Don Cherry,
What happened to him?
Same thing.
Got canceled.
You people.
Yeah, he got canceled.
So it's like, you know how this
group
is how
mentality, right? So easy to pick on somebody because there's one guy. That's the problem with society today.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Jesus tells us, you know, you got to have compassion. You got to put yourself in that person's shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To truly know, and don't just, you know, throw whatever, you know, like actually ask a question. Like I had a guy from Maclean's magazine who did an opinion piece, and he says Remigio Pereira is either a passive racist or an aggressive one. Take your pick. And he just went, and you know, this is a magazine that's all across Canada
without knowing a single thing about you.
A single thing I said, and I wrote, and when I only found out 2 years later, I'm like, hey, why didn't you just like reach out to me and you know? And he's like, you're the worst kind of racist there is. You're a viper. You're a blood sucking vampire. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah,
you know?
He's the one with the Ukrainian flag in his thing 1 month, and then the next month he's got something else. He's pandering to whatever is going on at the time, probably.
Well, most people do nowadays.
Yeah,
because that's where the money is.
That's right.
You're
safe zone.
Yeah,
right.
You're on his story side, you know. And if you're on his story side, you're just following the stream, you know. Try to go against it. Exactly. Yeah. So this is the world that we live in. So yeah, I don't, you know, I wish the guys well, and I would love to, you know, I'm here now. I mean, I thought about maybe, you know, reaching out to Vic and, you know, just hanging out, because I was the closest to Vic anyways, because we're both, he's from Maltese descent and I'm Azorian, both islands. We grew up with a lot of family values. We all, we had Jesus in our lives at a very young age, and because this world is fleeting, and it says in Matthew that, before you come to me and bear gifts, make sure that you're right with your brethren. You know what I mean? And so it's been weighing on me. I've had many dreams and stuff that I'm actually going on stage with them, but I can't perform, and I think the reason why is because I got to do that work. And if they're not going to reach out to me, then I'll reach out to them, which
Right.
I've tried in the past, but I never heard anything. But, it's going to be 10 years.
That's right. Yeah, it's almost a decade. I would think at this point, things have changed in those 10 years drastically, especially the political landscape. So I think things are a little bit different now. That I wonder if that happened today, how things would be perceived.
Well, the BML movement.
The BLM's a disaster.
So that was what everyone was. It was like gospel. You couldn't say anything about this movement.
Yeah.
And now it's like there's been.
Well, the guy one of the founders beat the crap out of a lady the other day. And
abuse, it's trafficking, it's everything. It's cesspool.
Fraud,
right?
a lot of fraud too.
Yeah, and then they all got book deals and Hollywood, movie deals and everything. And what happened?
What did they give their own culture?
Exactly.
On the backs of dead children, basically, right? They're
And none of that
committing
money
fraud.
went to anyone in their community, right? So none of the money, they made $21 million or whatever.
And how many homes did they, multi-million dollar
right.
homes did they have?
Yeah.
Nobody, they want to hide all that kind of thing. But if that's the truth of the matter, then, people have to start waking up.
And they have to answer for that at some point, because clearly, if you're, defrauding the public that are donating for like a good cause to help, the black communities in that area, it's a
This
shame.
is it. Like when I do my concerts and it's 100%, I'm like, I want to make sure every single cent goes. I couldn't imagine being that person to, stealing bread from the poor.
Yeah.
That's the whole that Chris Cornell song, "Going Hungry."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy how those words are like, prophetic of what's going on right
I
now.
don't mind stealing bread
From the mouths of decadence.
Yeah.
Let's hear some songs.
Yeah.
Let's hear some it's opera voice. Okay, give me a little bit of that right
So
now.
one question actually was going to ask you is how do you sort of go from an operatic voice to just singing like a normal song without the crazy vibrato and all the how do you do one and the other? Like how do you separate them?
It's been that's one of the blessings of being in the band, is that we had to blend our voices. So like Vic and I had the operatic sound, and Cliff and Fraze were the pop, more pop sound. And so, but the thing is, if you just come out trying to sing a pop song operatically, it sounds like, to a pop ear, it'd be like, that sounds kind of weird, And for them to try to sing pop in a classical, it's like, you know what I mean? So we had the two, but Vic and I had to really try to blend, and so that has, But I've always been a fan of music, all music. So I heard, whether it be Portuguese fado from my dad, at home, hearing that type of almost Moorish kind of sound, voice, to Luciano Pavarotti, on TV, to my sisters listening to Bon Jovi and Loverboy on, and so to me, technically, you do have to. There's definitely like a gas pedal and a brake pedal, and you got to know how to, work the clutch between the two.
Yeah, because even like watching you perform is pretty incredible, because you have such a gigantic voice that I couldn't imagine trying to separate the two things. If you wanted to just sing like a casual song, like when you're sitting in the car, can you actually just sing along to something, or do you have to like go for it? You know what I mean?
No, yeah, the thing is, I like you sing for the song itself. You know what I mean? The song calls for what it does, and the thing, like the worship album that I'm doing now, you're mixing the two sounds together, and then there's certain climactic parts that that call for that kind of sound, and then there's kind of like the middle ground in between, and then there's some that just calls for that straight, guttural, rock pop song sound.
Cool. So gospel album. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you writing this?
Yeah,
you've written the whole album yourself.
Yeah, everything. It's basically, like, I have a hard time because it's my experience, right? So the songs are so personal, where you know how it is. Sometimes people get together and they write a song for an artist or something like that, and you know, I'm living my life. I've lived all this stuff. Everything that I'm living, I'm breathing, and you know, nobody could understand what I went through unless you know they went through it themselves. And so the songs are really personal, but I think at the same time they're universal because everybody's got a story. Everybody's going through, you know, everybody's carrying their cross. Everybody has their, you know, the stories that go through their head, the trials and the tribulations that God puts forth, you know, in front of us, or Satan, that we have to maneuver to get through. You know, God gives us what you can handle. And, you know, the scales have been tipped quite heavily on my shoulders for the past few years. And so you'll hear that on the album, you know. So there's no fluff on it. It's really, you know, and it's called a voice of one crying in the wilderness, which is what Isaiah prophesied that John the Baptist would be, and that's exactly what he was. He was, you know, calling people to prepare the way for the Lord. And so I kind of feel, you know, that kind of cry out, which is what I was doing back in 2016, back in 2014, trying to cry out to the people, hey, look, we don't live on a flat earth. Look, that's a lie. Look, this is what they're doing to the children. You know, I mean, they're doing this, they're doing that, you know. You're crazy. And it's so crazy because Jesus prophesies that, you know, there'll be, you know, prophets in the street and saying, you know, and it's crazy because historian, what's his name there? Josephus, he wrote that there was, and it literally was the prophecy that Jesus talked about, that, you know, when there's a time of peace, right, there'll be whispers, you know, of war, but it'll be a time of peace. That's when, you know, things start to happen. And Josephus wrote back in 70 AD, between 64 and 70 AD, that there was this guy named Jesus of Ananus. He was a son of a plebeian. He was the son of Ananus, who was literally, I think he was like the father-in-law of Caiaphas. Caiaphas was the chief priest that, you know, was at Jesus's trial and said, are you claiming that you are the Son of God? And Jesus says to him, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming in his glory in the clouds. So he told Caiaphas this, right? And this happened in 70 AD. If you go to the Geneva Bible and you look at the notes on the side, in Matthew 21, when it's talking about the destruction of the temple, you know, Jesus is walking with the apostles, and the apostle says, look at this, you know, look at this amazing temple. And then Jesus says, not one of these stones are going to remain standing. And in the Geneva Bible, it says these things happened within 50 years, you know. But one of the deceptions that we have been deceived is that when you read all of Revelation and you get to Revelation 20, right, all the great tribulation, and right now they're trying to build a third temple. Why? So that it can be destroyed, so you have the coming of the Christ. Well, wait a second, the second temple happened. Are they repurposing the Bible to make us think that it's a future event when all of this stuff already happened? And when you take a look around you, we have evidence of a cataclysm. We have melted buildings absolutely everywhere, right? Not only that, we have historical accounts that literally match up with what it says in Revelation. You'll see signs. Well, 70 AD, Josephus writes that in the time of Nisan, okay, that is the springtime. When Jesus tells him that when the temple, he said, give us a sign. When he's like, you always want to see signs. He says, when you know that there's, you know, the fig tree, the buds are coming out. When is that? That's springtime. Well, wasn't it at springtime that the Romans got in and destroyed the temple, right? Right at that moment. And at that moment, inside the temple, you know, the abomination of desolation, there was a red heifer. So a cow gave birth to a lamb. Josephus wrote this. This is a historical account. Is that not a sign of something? There was a sword that was alight right above the holy place, which was the temple, and it lit up at like 3:00 in the morning for half an hour. There was a comet for the whole year that they would see on that during that. These are all signs. And there was earthquakes, and there was a voice. And so this plebeian, this guy that was saying for 7.5 years, that's how long the tribulation is, 7.5 years, 7 years, 5 months. Josephus wrote that this guy, Jesus of Ananus, was saying, woe to Jerusalem, woe to the people, you know, a voice from the west, a voice from the east, a voice from the north, and that's all prophesied in John. Now, Christianity will have us believe that John died in 95 AD, right? In Pergamos. And so that's when he wrote this revelation. So that's why they think, well, in 70 AD is when the tower, when the temple was destroyed. So he must be talking about in the future. And then you have Darby and you have the Scofield Bible that pushes that whole idea. Well, once you start digging into it, you start realizing if you take Jesus' words right, face value, the time is nigh, the kingdom is at hand, right? And he tells Caiaphas, you will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. So he's telling Caiaphas he's going to see the second coming. Is Caiaphas still alive today? Is John his favorite disciple when Peter says, and how about him? And he says, what's it to you if he tarries until I come? So John would see the second coming, right? So that's a prophecy. If John wrote Revelation as a prophecy of what would happen, he wrote it to the 7 churches, right? Philadelphia, Smyrna, Laodicea, what's all the other ones? None of these churches are around today. They're all in ruins. Mm-hmm. So how could it be a future event if the very churches that he was talking to was there? So what happens at Revelation 20? You take a look at all these buildings. I mean, you're a roofer. You see all of these structures. Can we build cathedrals today?
No chance.
No chance. And Jesus says, building a temple without hands. He's talking about his resurrected body. But in Revelation 3:10, right, all, the synagogue of Satan, the ones that are persecuting those who are dying for Christ, well, he says that you will be given thrones and they will worship at your feet. Revelation 3:10. Who's going to worship at their feet? The ones that are persecuting and killed the saints, right? Who have blood on their hands. Well, if they're resurrected and they're reigning 1,000 years with Christ, and they call the Dark Ages, but that's when these cathedrals were built. Was it really the Dark Ages or was it the Age of Light? The Byzantine Empire lasted 1,000 years. On their coin, they have a king with a halo, a saint. On the other side, they have Jesus, the king. And 1,000 years they reigned. And then Revelation 20, verse 7, it says, then Satan will be loosed for a short season.
Yeah. And we're in it.
And he will deceive the nations. And this is where I think we are. This is why NASA is Nasha, to beguile.
Deceive.
And then, like you said, it's got the serpent tongue on the. And then you have all of these politicians that think that, you go in there thinking, oh, they're for you, but they're all part of the same club. And so it's Satan's minions. When you think about it, we were given dominion over this place, right? So how could we be fighting over lands if the lands were given to the people, How far back do you have to go to realize that, well, then the land belongs to Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't belong to this person or that person. It belongs to all of us. And we're supposed to be caretakers of this land. And so I think that we've been deceived. And I think even the elect may be deceived. And, this is a different eschatology than what has been taught, for the past 200 years. And, people are having a hard time. But when you look at meltology, you see that Great Tribulation, there was brimstone, there was fire coming down from the sky. Things were melted. The mountains, melted like wax, like it says in Timothy. So you look around the Grand Canyon, you look at it, those were all buildings that were there. It's all melted rock because when you go up to it, there's like red brick in there. How is there red brick in a mountain, And so you see it all over the place. And I think what happened was after the millennium reign ended and Satan was released, that's when he's going around to build an army. To why? To encamp the saints, right? Where they're reigning. There's maps from the 1600s that between the lands between Alaska and Russia, there's a whole landmass there that they've completely removed. First, it was called Terra de Jesu. Jesu is Jesus. So the land of Jesus. And then it changed it to land, a terre inconnue, or incognito. So, and then the whole land disappeared.
It's gone, yeah.
And take a look at the international date line. If you got a pie, and you're dividing everything equally because you're dealing with the shadow of the sun, right? It's going to be even split, right down the middle. Well, take a look at the international date line. It goes like this, then it goes 3 hours timeline this way, right? and then back again, and then up. What are you hiding in those 3-hour time zones? 3 time zones of land. That's like, think about it. That's from here to Vancouver.
Yeah.
What's on there? Like, if you look at a map or whatever.
You don't see the map. It's not on the maps anymore.
So is it just ocean? They just show ocean.
The
It's
old
just
maps,
ocean.
they have it in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, the old maps, you can see them.
Yeah,
If you
and-
find they have old maps they found through Egypt and stuff. There's these little islands that are gone.
Totally. And not only that, you see all the giants and you see dragons and you see all these things that they claim, are myths.
You look at these gigantic doors and these buildings are like 48 feet tall. Like
with the knobs at the top.
like those are just built for decoration. Like,
yeah, it's for the magnitude.
It's
of
funny
the-
when you like start to you look at the Bible, like, hey, maybe everything that's in there is absolutely.
This was it.
Well, when you get there, I got there in my life too, and
Yeah.
it's like a full 360, and you're like, huh.
Yeah. Well, first it was flat Earth, and then it was like right to Genesis 6:4. I'm like, because I toured around and I saw these buildings, and I saw the massive doors with the latch at the top.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
sense.
Nobody's gonna get a thing. It makes no sense. But what makes sense is Genesis 6:4.
Yeah.
So I think we've been deceived on a mass scale, and most people have no idea that we're literally in Satan's season. And the crazy thing is this. So the Dark Ages is when these buildings were built. If you go into Wikipedia and you find out that these cathedrals were built within a year or two, that's what they say. A year or two. Like you telling me that, and you have no blueprints of anything?
Well, all the old buildings in New York were already built before they even got there. The
Exactly.
tunnels, everything else, the Parliament
Underneath,
buildings.
all the strata underneath.
So they want you to believe they brought a bunch of immigrants in and built like these massive monuments and all this stuff in a year.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You go through New York, and even if you go downtown, I was looking at in Toronto today.
Yeah.
And it's like, these don't fit the timeline. You just see
They
the
totally
architecture,
don't.
right?
And there's a guy named Gunnar Heinzman, and he is a guy that literally starts to analyze the timeline, and he realizes that 9th century buildings are actually 1st century architecture, and there's no strata underneath, which means that they're the originals, but yet they're calling them 9th century. So that means that they're adding 900 years to the timeline. When you go to Daniel 7:25, it says that he will attempt to change the times and the laws, right? But I'm thinking not only the times and the laws, but also geography. I mean, you take a look at North America and you see Moab, you see Utah, Judah. California was an island, and it was called the Red Sea right between there. You know what I mean? Everything, you start realizing, wait a second.
They've lied to you on every front.
So if they lie to us about that, you gotta start looking at reevaluating everything. And so I think we're in a huge deception, and that's exactly the time that Satan's going to do that. When he's released, what does he do? He establishes the Enlightenment period, 1776. We got the Statue of Liberty, Statue of Lucifer.
And it has like
the chain.
Well, the Book of Enoch saying that, like we talked about that already,
Yes.
but all the craters they're not meteorites, or were the angels,
fallen angels.
fallen angels.
Exactly.
And they're all your Hollywood people. They don't die.
No.
So like Elvis Presley is the same. He's here somewhere else. And there's the one guy.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump is Satan.
Well, they're shapeshifters. So, it even says in the
I always
Bible.
call them lizard people. I've been calling them lizard people for 2 decades online.
Well, when you do that, people all of a sudden shut off. You know what I mean? But if you think about that, they're shapeshifters. I mean, if you go biblically, it says that, be careful because you don't know whether or not you're entertaining angels, which means that they appear in human form.
Yeah.
And so if they're doing that, then they can, and what do they want to do? They want to be worshipped.
Yeah.
Because the
False
reason
idols, right? Don't worship them.
and they fell because they wanted to go above, like Satan wanted to put himself as the most high, if not above him, right? And they want to be worshipped. So what do? They're cast down here, and just like in any prison, you have a hierarchy, Be careful because, you don't want to piss off Bubba because,
Donald.
You're going to be...
Abaddon.
Exactly, Abaddon.
Me and this guy are best friends, but
I knew it would be a match made in heaven. Josh is a question everything type of guy as well.
Yeah.
We are literally on the same page, 1,000%. I
Yeah.
just can't afford to live in the middle of nowhere. I got to raise these 5 kids. I'm going to fuck off to fucking New Brunswick.
Well, the thing is, and this is the other thing. I realized that I was paying to keep up these walls, and my mom had moved out to Nova Scotia, and I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So that's why I went off grid, is because, I'm not made of money. Whatever I have, I'm going to try to, live as minimally as I can, and you have more time to do what you want to do. You can teach your kids as opposed to put them in a school and have someone else tell them what the lies are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the whole feminist movement, was to remove women from the home, get them to work so that the kids are raised by the television. And that's exactly what they're doing, is they're telling their vision, and it's programming, and they're channeling demons. And
that's why they originally do war, because they remove the young men from society, and then it's easier to run that society. After the men are dead, it's a fatherless society.
Or they're effeminate like they are today.
And then once they couldn't do that anymore, nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants war. How'd they get people to be soldiers and be roll up your sleeve? Look at me, I'm a hero. And then they're dropping like
fluorinate
flies.
their water.
Well, that's another thing too, right?
Yeah.
I bought the zero fluoride for us today.
I know. That's good.
But it just says it on the sign. I didn't test it yet. It's probably got a bunch in there.
Who knows? Yeah. If they're lying about that, they're lying about this too. I bet you this was probably the worst.
Yeah, it says zero. Get you, stupid people.
So will we be able to get you back on the show in weeks or months? Like, are you going to be able to plug into some sort of solar panel and remote in with us? Or?
Sure, man. Like whatever, I have to come back again to do some performances and whatnot. And, with this album, hopefully I'm going to, do a bit of a tour with it. And cool. I'm open to anything you guys want to do, bro.
Yeah, because I think, like we covered, there's so many different things that we could get into. I think now that people, like, I'm sure if people didn't know who you were, I mean, Josh has a big following in the U.S. as well. So I think I've been watching the chat, and there's some people who are like, where can I find his music? And then some people are like, you don't know who this guy is. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But anyways, I think we could get you on here and, like, pick apart some of these other subjects.
Where can we find your music? Can we get
Just Google Remigio Pereira. You'll find him.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of articles out there.
Oh, yeah, those two.
You sing opera on the way in today.
Yeah.
Can you rip something out for me right here on the microphone? Like,
Sorry, man. I realized
that's okay. I got you.
You got a sound guy. It's redlining.
We got a sound guy here.
I knew it was coming.
That was great, man.
So what do you want to leave everybody with today before we wrap it up? Is there anything?
Seek the truth, the way, and the life. It's the only chance we have to get out of this, prison that they've created around our minds and around our bodies. And, I don't believe that there are any borders. I don't believe that there are any countries. I don't believe that, when God gave his dominion over this land, he gave his dominion over the land. Mm-hmm. So all of that stuff is a construct. So if that's a construct, you got to actually ask the questions. And this is what I was always telling people to do. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. And I mean, you have to find it within yourself. Take the time to do it. They want you busy. They want you paying the bills. They want you keeping up with the Joneses. They want you putting your kids, in schools and after, so that you're not around, and all the brainwashing that they've done to the other kids are going to seep in, and then your kids are going to come home and start questioning you. It's like that famous thing, where, you're a kid, oh, dad knows everything. Oh, dad is awesome, and then you're 10 years old. Yeah, dad knows, he's great. And then 12, yeah, dad doesn't know absolutely everything, and 16, dad knows nothing, And then 20, I know more than dad.
Yeah.
And you're 30,
Dad's
dad
an idiot.
Like, dad knew a few things, and then 40, man, dad was right.
Yeah, and then when he's gone, and then he's gone.
I wish dad was here.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, and they keep us busy and on this wheel of trying to make money, and none of that isn't, listen, when we go to the New Jerusalem, the lion will sleep with the lamb, there's no death, there's no wars. Your time is spent making beautiful music with God and the angels, and you're enjoying life. You're not tilling, and constantly, and because that's what keeps you in this material world. That's what's keeping you always in this realm that they have us by the balls.
Yeah.
They have you chasing a carrot that's imaginary. And the only thing that's going to get, listen, I could have committed suicide. I was sent things, brochures from people after it all happened. I'm here only by the grace of God. It's the only truth that is out there. In the Bible, it says, trust no man. How many times, only put your faith in God.
Amen.
And that is the message. That's what John the Baptist was here to do, is make your way straight. There's a narrow gate, there's a wide gate. Everybody's getting, to the satanic party through the wide gate, thinking it's a big party, but, It's the narrow gate that we need to go through, and that's what's going to allow us to spend an eternity in, you just have to watch people who have near-death experiences. I don't understand, after watching those, how people can still remain atheists when atheists and Satanists become Christians and translating Bibles afterwards. You know what I mean? And you see the truth. We all have that frequency of truth. In John 1 John 4:9, it says, Christ is the light that lighteth every man that comes into this world. Science caught up with John, the sheep herder, fisherman, goat herder, in 2017, when they realized that there's a flash of light that happens when the sperm enters the egg. So, this is the thing. Christ is within each and every one of us. He's at the core of our hearts. We just have to make sure that Satan doesn't dim that light, and that we realize that that light is within us, because we are to return home to the light. In the Garden of Eden, there was no darkness. That's why when Eve was tempted, God had to kick that darkness out, because around God there can be no darkness. Right at the beginning, God created light, created darkness, and the darkness could not comprehend the light. That tells you that they cannot be together, And so, I know the yin and yang, there's always a little bit of darkness and a little bit, but no, you need to, there's only one pure, blemishless lamb, and that was Christ, and we need to follow his footsteps. It's super hard, but it's a narrow path, and that's what we all need to be doing.
Amen.
Awesome, man. Well, Remy, you're a great soul. I love
this guy.
I've always loved hanging out with you, because you have almost like a real smooth calmness about you. If anybody could have gone through that, what you've gone through the past 10 years, it's certainly you, because I couldn't have. I would have been a mess, anxious mess.
But it's only because of God, brother.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only way, and it saved me. So, that's the message that we need to have here is finding,
Excellent.
Jesus,
Well, keep us posted on your album. We will certainly push it here and get people listening to it. I know there's people in the comments already that have been posting your website and talking about your music in the chat and everything. So,
well, if you want, I can send you a clip of the new album. You can hear some.
I'd love to hear it.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
And then when it comes out, maybe we'll have you back on and we can sort of talk about it and your experience with it. And do you have a rough ETA of when it's going to come out or release date?
I don't. I mean. It's all in God's hands at this point.
Okay.
I'm still writing some of it. Some of it is still coming to me, but I'm more than halfway through it right now. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Remy.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Canceled.
Canceled.
Canceled. Streaming everywhere.
And burn the whole place. You can try to shut it down, try to mute that sound, but the truth hits harder when it comes